Okay, let me see if I can screen share here. It's nice to see a lot of familiar faces out there, and hope everyone's healthy and happy during this time. Let me see if I can do that. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
That might be better. Okay, so I'm going to tell a story with data today. So I think we're going to try to follow the similar pattern of, we're going to try to do 20 minutes of presentation. I'm going to put myself on a timer right now, so I know I stay my 20 minutes, and then we'll go into a Q&A for 10 minutes or maybe even less, depending on how it goes. And then Valerie's going to lead us in breakout rooms today. But I'm going to go to the Wayback Machine a little bit. Some of you might have seen this in my office frame, but back in 2006, I was the recipient of this sticky note to a former CIO, Adrian Sanier, and he handed it to me. So I feel like it was sent to me. And you can see it's signed by MMC. And of course, I think we all know who MMC is. I have a little bit of a man crush on him, even after last talk. So it's really great to be working in an institution with him. But anyway, he had sent the sticky saying, learn all about dashboards. So I took that as permission of how can we do better in terms of making data easier to consume. And so we'd done a great job of getting a lot of data into the warehouse back from the mid-90s, but it was really hard to sometimes consume that. And a lot of the reports, if you remember, looked like this. And I see a few heads out there nodding, remember these green bar reports. And also I should mention too, that this was actually the other piece of paper that's a lot of people have not seen that Dr. Crow shared as well. So clearly back in 2016, he was ahead of his time, much like he's thinking about VR and moving us into being the most innovative institution, regardless if we're named that or not. And a lot of you might know this. I think this actually led to us building out the dashboards in about 2006, 2007. And some of you might remember or still use the super report. How can I merge financial data together with HR data? The ability to not only see this data in tabular form, but notice that I could see easily what accounts might be in trouble based on red or yellow, or even the ability to drill in to see how's my burn rate going. And so this is really where, how do we take this data that we have and make it much more visible? Some of you also might know the student retention dashboard as well. The other thing, so I think, as I would put it, maybe 10 years ago I was an expert, but clearly I'm not an expert today, and I'm actually going to share a lot of the work of my colleagues in UTO. But back 10 years ago, I think I was an expert, and today I'm just going to talk about, I went back and looked at some of the presentations I had and share some of that. Even back, I think it was 2008, Wayne Eckerson wrote a book about ASU's dashboard, and here's one of the dashboards where we actually monitored who was actually using the dashboard. And we use this as a tool to know how people are using the dashboards, which ones are popular, and then where should we spend our time in working on what people really wanted to see out there. So this was one of the tools that was actually highlighted in a chapter of a book out there. And as I said, I went on a roadshow over 10 years ago talking about some of the work we did. And today I'm going to go back and revisit some of those, as I said, and see what holds true today, and then are there any lessons we could learn today. So really, thanks to Bob Sukvang, he provided this data today a couple days ago to me. And then this is really about how do we take data like this, whether it's in a database or in an Excel sheet, and then make it available, like Lev showed this morning, where it actually tells a story like that. And as you could see, over 4,500 years of experience, and that you wouldn't have necessarily saw that in looking at something like this. Being that we're in this terrible time of the COVID crisis, I took an opportunity to see really what visuals are really helping me tell the story. So this is one I go to almost every day, looking especially on the right-hand corner of the daily cases. That's, in my mind, it's telling me that's when I can tell it's over, when that starts to go down. Here's my other favorite one of telling a story of the cases that are increasing or decreasing, and you can clearly tell by this visual. And I think this tells a great story of, if I'm in Minnesota or Nebraska, I shouldn't be thinking about open, where maybe Wyoming or Arkansas can, versus, maybe it's not time for Arizona open. So anyway, I thought that was a great way to present this data. And I have one more before I get to the meat of what I'm going to present. Here's another way, a great visual as well. Even though it is just a tabular data, I can quickly tell by looking at this, really how the states are doing in terms of of the crisis. So I just wanted to share those three out there, as well as there's some infographics out there, info-like graphics out there. You know, how great does this tell the story that, you know, when we reduce social exposure by 75% versus 50% by not doing social distancing, the message that it tells by that data that's out there. So really what I'm going to try to do today, so I think I had about 30 different visualization tips that I saw or used throughout the years back then. So I went through and found the 7 that I thought would probably be the most entertaining, or that would tell a fun story out there. So here are the 7 that I plan to talk about today. So the first one is save your pies for dessert. I'm also going to talk about resist revving your engines, no to 3D, pay attention to pre-attentive attributes, initiate infographics, KPI placement is key, and finally, word clouds are the new mullets. And you can imagine what I'm going to share out there with pictures of mullets. You can do this. But when we talk about saving pies for dessert, and I know a lot of you probably know this already, but if you haven't, one of my inspirations back then, there was a guy named Stephen Few who wrote this book, Information Dashboards. And really the way that he told his stories, he showed dashboards that were bad and then told why they were bad. Instead of saying, this is what's good, here's what's bad that you can learn from. And so I've met him a few times. And of course, in his book, when he signed it, he said, remember, save the pies for dessert. So why don't we want to use pie charts or try to minimize pie charts when we do show visualization? So I think this is one way to show that. But if you look right here, which of the 2 images on the page tell the story better? Well, I have a sort of a perception issue looking at the one on the left of saying, really, I mean, I can kind of tell maybe it's about 45%, but it takes me a while to sort of help comprehend that data in terms of the perspective as well. But if I look on the right, it kind of tells the story better. So, you know, this slide alone tells me, yeah, this is probably not a great time to use, using pie charts aren't necessarily the best vehicle of sort of delivering information out there. But there are some pie charts that I really do like out there. So this is one of my favorite ones from GraphJam. And if anyone wants to actually unmute themselves and sing these songs, you can. So people call me the Space Cowboy, the Gangster of Love, or what am I? I'm a picker, I'm a grinner. I won't sing for you. But the other one I like, pies that I have eaten and pies that I've yet to eat. That's the only other pie chart I like. And then probably my favorite is this one by a 5th grader. Percentage of 5-year-olds who thinks crayons are fun to color with or delicious. So, okay, so now I think you understand why we shouldn't use pie charts. I hope I've convinced you. The other thing is, this is probably a little bit dated, but resist revving your engines. So back in 2005, 2006, everyone decided they took it so literally of building out a dashboard. So when they would build dashboards, they would make it like your automobile out there. So as I'm saying, resist revving your engines out there. So this is a little bit back in time, as well as everyone seems to be hooked on all these gauges out there. And I don't know about you, does this really tell you any messages out there? But if we go back to, like, say, the super report, I thought that did a really great job because I could quickly tell, you know, what accounts might be in trouble in terms of being overspent. But this one just, I don't know about you, but it just kind of hurts to look at that picture out there. So lesson number 2 is don't resist revving your engines. Number 3 is just say no to 3D. And I think this all makes sense out there. Back in 2005, this is what Excel looked like. And it looked really cool back then, but tell me, can you tell me what this image is telling me what data is? No, I can't. So as well as, does that tell you much of a story out there? No, so you can see why I say no to 3D out there. And of course, I think this was an early dashboard. We were trying to look at iTunes data back from probably 2006. So the dashboard team played a trick on me and of course provided their data through 3D pie charts as well as having 3D charts out there. So it was painful somewhere. It was painful to look at that data. And then of course, when you add pie charts to 3D to the wrong colors, this is what happens out there. Color blindness in a general population. I'll let you take that in for a minute, and I'm hoping that you're all laughing out there, or at least grinning out there as you do this. So number 4 is pay attention to pre-attentive attributes or variables. There's a couple different ways to show this. you can look out there is how do I then showcase something that's in a particular visual out there, whether it's change of color or that. So here are some real live examples. Here's a list of numbers out there. If I want to sort of highlight, say, the number 3, isn't that a nice way to do it? Just by bolding it out there. And some real live examples on dashboards. Here are some ones we built way back when. How do I show how Arizona fits with other Pac-12 schools in terms of compensation? You can see by using pre-attentive variables, you can see that out there. Or looking at this product sales, I can see how our company is doing. Or even this, when I look at usage data, it's hard for me to tell what day of the week is out there, but if I highlight Mondays, you can quickly see that it's much easier to tell it that way. Also initiate infographics. Infographics are much more popular today, but back 10 years ago, hardly anyone was using infographics. And I'm gonna give Matt Roten credit, even though I'm not sure who did this, but years ago I found this ASU Online. And I think it's a great example of how you can tell a story of how ASU Online told their stories of where students are coming from, who's coming to, who are the students that are out there. And I was hoping, I noticed there's not one number of how many students there are, but anyway, I think this is just a great example of how to tell a story that's out there. And also I should mention too, I've yet to post the slide deck, but I will do this right after this presentation. So if you're trying to take screen captures, don't worry about that. Also, as well as UTO by the numbers, it's a great way of telling the story. And probably one of my favorite infographics, and I have to give props to my daughter Maggie, this was a classroom project back in, for a master's program. She had to take some data and actually tell a story. And I thought that she did a really amazing job of telling for the minds of Mensa, who's all in it, but taking, for example, who's the youngest member, oldest member, and also in terms of, say, gender breakdown. So that was, as well as a nice map of where they're from. So I thought that was really a great example of how to use infographics. One other thing is KPI placement is key, is number 6 in terms of tips and tips. If I look at KPI placement, the way that the eye looks, at least in North America, or a lot of English speaking, they always look at the left top corner of a page, and then they slowly make their way through the page. And so typically we look up here, or this is the way we typically navigate a page. So as we build dashboards, I think it makes sense as we design those to do that. So here's a great example of what the team did recently of workspaces for me. I can now see quickly this data is 402, and I can quickly then look, I want to see the active members. This data is information of what departments are actually using it. So you kind of keep the important data up here, as well as just tells a nice story out there. Here's another example too. I'm very interested in our 300 licenses of Alteryx, who's actually adopting and using it. And I can get a quick look right away that about 1/3 of our licenses have been consumed. And then this, as it updates, I can go out there and check this, and how do I push for more adoption out there. And then actually I can drill into who's actually using the technology that's out there. So finally, I bet you the one that you've been waiting for is word clouds or the new mullets. But before I get to that, I really want to highlight some of the work that the team has done in UTO, and a few other visualizations that I've noticed out there. One of my favorite is by my colleague Mike Sharkey. I think he's one of our visualization gurus on campus. Here is him, one of his spaghetti charts for, I believe it's Math 117. Of the 370 things that students need to do in that particular course, this is sort of their path of doing it, but also predicting if they might be in trouble. If you think about this, a faculty member can now find that student, outreach to them, and help try to get them back in course. So this is really a nice actionable visualization out there. Here's another one that Paul Alvarado might put together in terms of learning tools. So here's a bubble chart. I can see which tools are being used out there. And then I can also have the ability, so clearly Zoom is one of the larger in terms of unique users out there in terms of using that bubble chart. And then the ability to say, I want to drill into education. I can now quickly see the number of courses that are using it, which courses are using it most. So these are just other great examples of what's being built out there. Jenna Graham, I'm not sure if she's in the meeting, but she did a really great job of putting together a retention dashboard with a new college. And this was so it impressed so many deans that we're now taking it and making this available to the rest of the user community that's out there. This is also one, this is maybe not my favorite visual by Ed Plus telling all the tools they use, but I think it's really effective in terms of how it delivers the information of a lot of different tools being used to help deliver online education at ASU. So I think that's very effective in that way of telling that story. Carter Kwan put together, some of you know I'm a big Alexa fan. We have an Alexa skill, but it's nice for me to go out there to find out that we have 44,000 unique users of the ASU official skill. And I can also quickly tell that they're using it on Friday at about 5 p.m. So who would have thought that that's going to be the most popular time of using the Alexa skill out there. Kenvin recently put this together as we look at someday retiring in my reports. Someday, I'm not saying when, but this is helping us understand the usage and who are some of our largest customers as we start looking at weaning off this technology. Who do we need to deal with? Also, Haley put this together for me, or for the group, of how can I use this tool as a way of helping us in terms of seeing open requests, making sure that we're responding in a timely manner out there. So a lot of great examples out there. Dixon put this together years ago. I'm sure he's put together, this probably isn't his showcase that he would like to show, but this is a great way when we opened up our call center, the Experience Center years ago, our ability to go out there and help monitor the call center out there. So another great example out there. I'm gonna go get through these quickly. Sashi put this together as well in terms of, this is now a recruitment tool for Cheryl Hyman and her team and the deans to go out there and try to recruit students have signed up for pathway programs. And again, this is the ability to have an actionable dashboard that's out there. And then a bunch of Zoom ones that Sashi put together, which is really great to see based from last September to March, the usage has really grown out there, as well as what times of day they're actually being used out there. A great way, another great visual. Another one of how many sessions, who is our Zoom into users. I like that little metaphor there. Linda from UTO is one of the largest consumers of Zoom. And as you can see, who's all using Zoom. So just a couple great examples. I'll get through these quickly. Also, who's, in terms of the participants outside of the US, this is a great way of telling that story right there. So now what you've been waiting for, word clouds are the new mullets. If you notice out there for a while, people were doing all these articles about the mullets, even though I think probably mullets are coming back with everyone having to grow their hair. But as you can see, tag clouds or word clouds are the new mullets. Even though I personally like them, I think sometimes they're overused, and here are some examples where they might come in handy. And of course, I couldn't resist of showing my favorite mullets of all time to there. I'll let you take that in for a minute. But when we look back, Sashi provided this for me. So when we looked at Zoom outside of the normal hours, these were some of the sessions that were happening out there, virtual happy hour. And as we drilled into creating a word cloud from all this, this was just really great. This word cloud tells us that over the weekends, everyone at ASU is really focused on family. So I think that's one word cloud that I actually like out there as well. So, I'm a musician, I like lyrics. I try to write songs, but not for a long time. So I decided, what could I use data to figure out what's the best way to write a hit song? So I'm a fan of James Taylor. Here's a word cloud of the songs, of the lyrics used in his songs. I'm also a fan of the Beatles. And if I look at the Beatles, these are the lyrics they use in their songs. What you need according to the Beatles. Time for you to laugh. Also, popular colors of resident submarines. Okay, I'm also a fan of Led Zeppelin, and this is the lyrics that Led Zeppelin uses for their songs. Contents of, okay, I'll let you take that in. Another bad. I see I have one more minute before I go going. I am also a U2 fan, so I took their lyrics. I think you know where I'm going. So I'm trying to figure out, of all these lyrics, what makes up a hit song. And these are the things Bono has found. Okay. You guys got it? Okay, so if I take the Beatles lyrics along with James Taylor's lyrics, as well as Led Zeppelin and U2, you can see now that for us to write if you want to write a hit song, I think you need to use the word love and know, and potentially the word baby. So if there's something you can take away today, it's basically what are the two words to use to write a hit song, as well as my love of mullets. And Amount of Love, according to bands, is Beatles is All You Need, Led Zeppelin, A Whole Lot of Love, Bob Marley, One Love, and The Doors 2 times. So anyway, these are 3 of our original dashboard developers. So this is, I thought I would immortalize them. They were the ones that built the original dashboards back in 2010. So I've never seen a visualization so dense with color and data. Look and stare long enough, you can see 3D images of Lev Gonick. So I want everyone to sort of squint their eyes for a minute and look at this next slide and see, do you see any pictures of Lev Gonick out there? And he's probably gonna kill me for the picture in the bottom left-hand corner, but I won't tell where I got that at, but that is Lev out there in that. So, but anyway, I've also coined a term because I don't know whether to call it a dashboard or a visualization or an infographic. So I think my team also cringes when I use the word Viz-Dazzle. So we try to do a Viz-Dazzle of the week to help tell the rest of UTO's story. So actually the best Viz-Dazzle I've ever seen is actually my daughter's. So back when this is my other daughter, Annie. So when she was in 4th grade, this is her chart that she created. So I think this is my favorite Viz-Dazzle of all time. So if you can see, she polled everyone in the class. She also she noticed that girls do spend their time after school doing homework and the boys play video games. So of course she got a nice 100% on that. So with that, I realized my timer just ended and I hit the 20 seconds. I know there are questions out there as well. So I'll stop sharing and we can open it up, or I'll just pass it on to Valerie.
So I did notice that one question came in through the chat, and the question was, is there ever a time to use a pie chart? Maybe when there's like 2 parameters or something like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. I think sometimes when there's sort of 2 variables, I think in terms of say gender, that might be one way to do it. But other than that, I'm just just say no to pie charts. Save it for dessert. So.
Hey, John, I got a quick question.
Yes.
What tools do you recommend for people who are not doing this day to day, and methodology to follow if we have data, we all have data, but we don't necessarily know how to put it together in such a concise fashion for a dashboard? Yeah,
I mean, I think first of all, Excel is a great tool for, on the cheap. Excel always tells you, it has some great ways to visualize data. Use pivot charts are a great way to do that. We have site licenses for Tableau, so I think Tableau is probably one of my favorite tools in terms of pixel perfect type of tools that are out there. There's open source tools out there. There's open source word clouds out there. Wordle, I think, is one. So if you do want to create Word, there's other places out there that you can do visualization. So there's not really one tool of choice, but also I've always been asked too, are there infographic tools out there too? And I wish there was one to make infographics easier, but I don't think that's necessarily the case out there. So, but also, as I said, there's a lot of great and talented people and knowledgeable people out there too. So I don't believe I know all. And so if there's anyone else who wants to yell out something, other visualization tools respond to that, that'd be great too.
Hey, John, do you mind going back to the slide with Lev?
Okay, put me on the spot here, Carter.
This is Dixon. I think it was like 3 slides back.
Did you not get your screenshot in time, Dixon?
I just wanted to point that out because I believe that's a dashboard from Stephen Few, who's just gone really deep with the data visualization knowledge. And it's interesting because a lot of people may look at this at first glance and say, oh, that looks, kind of drab. But this is what we're looking at here is kind of like peak data viz, someone who's done this for a living for many, many years. And it kind of shows how the less is more is often an axiom from all walks of life, but it's trying to find that balance between how much time you have to devote to it and then interest as well. So you can build something really great in Tableau with the help from our team, or just on your own learning, and use the tool as it's intended to make things really quickly, or you can go really deep and make a career out of it if it really interests you. There's you know, we're in an interesting time where you can be a data viz specialist and do your life's work towards that. It's pretty interesting, but you can tell how he uses pixels like really effectively here and draws your eye to key stuff with just a really limited color.
Yeah, you know, like some of the things I did include in terms of my tips, I'm a huge fan of spark lines right there. He was a big one to make spark lines available. How do I take a lot, you see this a lot in a lot of stock charts right now, but how can I tell over a period of time of what that looks like? So yeah, you're right, Dixon, a really great way to do it. I think you also just wanted to see that picture of love again too, so. So.
Okay, so if no more questions, it's time to get started with our interactive portion of the breakout. So I am going to cut the time a little bit short since we did get started a little bit late.